Genesis House, FirstNet, built with AT&T, and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast. Join your hosts,
Podfather, Jersey Ed,
and Noontime with Skylar Noon,
as they address the real issues of first responders' health and wellness, from physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance. Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as iHeartRadio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast, sponsored by FirstNet, built by AT&T. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I am here with my good friend and co-host,
Noontime with Sky.
Skylar Noon. I love the Noontime with Sky. It's always Noontime with Skylar.
That's right.
and we have a guest today, a police officer from the town of Pelham, New Hampshire, Bruce Vieira. So we're going to be having him on shortly, and got a little bit of business to take care of right now, I guess, Skylar.
Yeah. So if you want to reach us, you can call us at 617-379-1163. Or email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. There's also something called Copline, which is they have a website called copline.org. And it's also a 800 number, which is 800 Copline. So that's 800-267-5463.
Very good. Remember all that.
Right.
And, thanking our sponsor, FirstNet, built by AT&T. We just always want to be thanking them. And the more I'm aware of FirstNet and people in the in the emergency services field, police, fire, corrections, EMS, it's becoming more and more known. And when you speak about it, people say, "Hey, I saw the podcast. I know about FirstNet. I know about communications." It's pretty cool. It was good having on Mr. Sheehan a couple of weeks ago too, with the communications.
That was really awesome because he really was a firsthand person that really understood the cop.
Right. Exactly.
The FirstNet.
FirstNet. So Bruce Vieira, Officer Vieira, how are you? Welcome to Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast.
I'm good. I'm doing very good. And thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Just a little background information that I know. I knew Bruce's dad growing up, same name. We grew up in the same era, in the same neighborhood. Great guy. Very, like I was just telling you, Bruce Jr., that, your dad was always the life of the party, just very likable. I didn't know anyone who didn't like Bruce Vieira. Just you say his name, everyone would be smiling. So I'm sure you have a very similar persona.
Yeah, I got some of it from him. So I'm very.
Hey, I remember when you were in high school. I live in the next town over, although it's another state. But the newspaper I read always covered the sports, and you were quite an athlete, football player, and you did other sports too. You were just a really good athlete. What drew you to law enforcement? I mean, what made you decide to do this?
So it's actually funny. So when I was a senior in high school at Pelham High, I took a criminology class, and that's where I really started to get the liking and understanding of law enforcement, and they touched upon it, and they touched upon the court system and stuff like that. And we actually watched a documentary on the O.J. Simpson trial, and I just found it so intriguing with the investigators and the work that they did. It really just it drew me to the job. And then I don't know if you remember, but Spike TV, back in the day when Spike TV was out, they had a show called DEA, and they would follow actual DEA agents, and they would do these, high level drug investigations, and they drugs and stuff. And it really showed the ins and outs of drug work. And I really grew a strong liking to that field of law enforcement.
Right. And you're a young guy. How old were you when you first started? When you first got out of the academy, what was your age?
I was 24.
24. That's the same age I started. And I think it's a perfect age to be starting in a career, because you're kind of, teenage years are gone after like 21, 22. You start maturing, and
Yeah.
So what exactly are you doing now? Are you working on patrol? Are you in a special unit? Tell us what you do.
Yep. So I'm assigned to the Criminal Bureau as a detective, and I'm assigned as a drug treatment and prevention officer.
Yes.
So my job, I kind of wear a lot of hats in the bureau here, but my main job is helping people who suffer from substance abuse disorder, getting them the correct resources that they need. And I also do the drug investigation side of it. So it's kind of a jack of all trades. But the main focus and the position that I have is helping individuals who suffer from substance abuse disorder.
Right. And I
Mike,
really,
that's
go ahead, Scott.
that's who works with Ann then. She told when you said she
Yes.
was under, but she actually was on the podcast talking about Bruce, I
Right.
think. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So
That's
now
me.
it's all
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
together.
Captain Perriello. Yeah, that's right. And
Yes. And yes, she said what great work you do in there. That's awesome.
yep. I think, it's a new position. From my point of view, I'm an old guy, but 35 years ago, when I was a cop, we had a DARE program, and then we became resource officers. But my whole career, I always try to help people, alcoholics, people that we used to call winos, a horrible term, but sorry, that's what we used to say. But if you had a little bit of empathy, you would always go out of your way to help somebody because you just did. And the cops I work with that didn't have any use for them. I had no use for those cops because they were cold-hearted. They weren't my type of, you know what I'm saying? They weren't my type of, there was no camaraderie with that. So, but I think it's great. Here we are, 2021, and we have police officers helping people with substance abuse problems. Not going to arrest them, Bruce. I mean, there's so many different laws now. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so there's a Good Samaritan law. So basically, it explains that if you report an overdose and we respond to that overdose, we're not going to make an arrest based on, what's maybe on scene, whether there's drugs on scene and stuff like that. The main focus at that point is assisting the person that needs it and not necessarily getting everyone in trouble that may be there if they're in possession of drugs and stuff like that. Not saying that we're not going to take the drugs,
Right.
But our main focus at that point is getting that individual the help that they need and then moving on to the next step and continuing the help that they need.
Right. And you do checkups, you check on people, make sure they're all right.
Yep. So, basically what I do, so when an overdose comes in and patrol responds, I respond. If that individual goes directly to the hospital, I'll follow up with that individual at the hospital. If that person, say, gets cleared from the scene, at that point, when I go there, I have basically a whole pamphlet of resources for, substance abuse disorder and recovery and stuff like that. So basically, by the time I leave, they have the whole packet of all this information that they need to get on the right steps to become better.
Right.
And if they're at the hospital, I'll go to the hospital, I'll follow up with them, and I'll leave them with the same pamphlets, same brochures and stuff like that. They'll get my business card. It has my cell phone on it. They can call me, they can text me at any time. And I let them know I'm not there to investigate them for the incident that took place. I'm there to help them. I'm here to help. Right. What went wrong and how do we make this better?
Right.
So the pamphlet will have like meeting lists and like treatment centers, stuff like that.
I got it right here. It's got everything. It's got everything in regards to inpatient, outpatient.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Overdoses, immediate support, family support.
That's awesome.
Detox, the whole gamut. It's got everything.
And that's great that you leave it open to text you and stuff too, because like it's not always easy to say the stuff. So sometimes being able to just text it, that could be such a great resource alone right there.
I remember when I started this job 6 years ago, and it wasn't that long ago, but no one wanted to talk to the cops. No one wanted to talk to us. And a lot of times we went to these overdoses, we weren't necessarily giving them the correct information to getting help. We would just do a report, help the individual, whether they're transported or not, and then move on to the next call. And we've completely taken a different approach, the right approach in helping people now.
Right. You work for a chief that's very, he's way ahead of his time. Great chief, Chief Rourke, Joseph Rourke, and comes from a law enforcement family. My office is in Chelmsford. I'm in the town I think he grew up in. I know both his brothers were police officers in this town, and Chief Rourke is just innovative and way ahead of his time.
Yep.
And just speak about that relationship, because I think it's so important for the community to have faith in the police department. But more importantly, he's a guy that I'm sure everybody gravitates towards because he is just so innovative and just giving.
Yeah, that's correct. He's light years ahead.
Yeah.
He's all about the town and the people and what the town and the people need, and what they'll need in the future, to make sure that we are continuing in the right steps of being, one of the best law enforcement agencies in this area.
You certainly are. You really are. And I don't say that like because you're on, but I've always said it, just from living in Drake right next door, and I've seen all your equipment to the flag football games and the police involvement, and just the respect. I actually parked in I was buying some cigars at the smoke shop up there on the left, across from the mobile, and I had parked in. It was a Sunday. I just parked in a fire lane, and then I came out and there was a police officer sitting there, and I had no idea. I thought he recognized me. I was, I was still a cop then. And he said, "Hey, sir, you parked in a fire lane." I had no idea. I was so embarrassed, So, but you know what? If he'd give me a ticket, I would have deserved it. But he didn't. But we spoke and we talked for a while, and I was so impressed with this kid. He was just a great cop, and yeah, it's good. It's good seeing that. You guys always look so squared away. Your cruisers, all your vehicles are always nice and clean, and you got a great department. How many men and women? How many men and women, Bruce, on the department?
We got about 22 in uniform. There's 3 detectives, 3 administrators, there's 2 captains, chief. We have a prosecutor. We have 2 school resource officers. So we are continuing to grow as the town grows.
Right.
And we're only going to get bigger. It's only going to get bigger. And there's a lot of through traffic between Mammoth Road and
big time.
So
very busy.
Yeah, and then all the towns around us are growing too. So I think we'll continue to grow here.
Tell us about your boss. Who do you work for directly? Do you work for Captain Perriello directly, or?
She's above my boss. So my direct boss, Detective Sergeant O'Donnell.
Okay. Oh yes, TJ. Yep.
Yep. TJ O'Donnell. He is he's the godfather around. He's done
he it certainly all. Is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done it all. He's a great guy. He's a family guy. And he's about taking care of his guys and doing the right thing always.
Right. He's a Lowell, Massachusetts guy. I'm pretty sure.
He is. Yep.
Absolutely. Prominent family, nice family. And then his boss would be Captain
Perriello. Yes.
Yeah, Perriello. She is another innovative, just top shelf police officer. I don't know. She speaks very highly of you and she speaks very highly of your boss too. And I like that. I like that in a supervisor. She never makes it about herself. And when you think of where she's at her young age and her abilities and what she's doing with her life, she's getting another master's degree. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable the work that she does. The work that she does outside of here with getting her master's and stuff like that. Right. I talk about one of the hardest working people. It's her.
Yeah.
Again, she's like you said, she's not about herself. She's about people around her and take care of the people around her. She's one of the best people to work with.
Right. When I watch the news, I'm an old man now, I'm retired and I sit around in my slippers but when I watch the news and I see some of the unnecessary attacks on police, although there are some necessary concerns we've seen, but you can never condone some actions that you see, but there were so many unnecessary attacks on police officers. And I think of someone like Ann or yourself, plenty of cops I know that are really there, committed to helping people. What's your opinion on that? I mean, do we have time, or do you want to wait till after the break, Skylar, for this question? Okay.
I'm muted. We want to take our quick break now, and then we can dive into it.
Yeah, we'll come back to that question.
That's a great question.
All right. We'll be right back. Answering the Call, the First Responders podcast, sponsored by FirstNet, built by AT&T. This is the Podfather Mike Miles here with Skylar Noon and Officer Bruce Vieira. We'll be right back.
You're first. First to respond. First to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first. That connects you to technology, to each other, and to other agencies. Built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only congressionally authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast, sponsored by FirstNet, built by AT&T. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with my assistant.
Noon time with Sky.
Co-host. Yeah, Ed's not with us today, Skylar.
I know, he's in sunny
I know.
Florida.
Oh, he's going to miss out on this
He
show.
said it was 80 degrees there.
Oh, well, you know what? I wish I was Ed right now.
Right? I think it's 30 here, you know.
Right. Did you have any things we have to give out to the
Yeah, so real quick, I just want to go over the Friends in Recovery adventures that we have.
Yes.
We did a hike in the snow using snowshoes last month. This month we are doing skating.
Oh my goodness.
So we're gonna meet starting in April. It's the first Tuesday every month. We're gonna have a committee that we meet up on Zoom and we plan
That's
different
so awesome.
activities. So
That's
we
so
have fun in recovery, you know.
Right.
So
Yep.
and the mountain hike that was an 8K. Like how cool was that? And I finished
Wow.
it.
I couldn't do that. I'd be like 1K. That'd be it for me.
Right. So but yeah, so that we have that. So Friends in Recovery Adventures, it's called. You can check us out on Facebook. Also, if you want to reach us, our number is 617-379-1163. You can also email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And then we also have a Friends in Recovery podcast Facebook, and then an answering the call page as well on Facebook. And then we also have an awesome resource called copline.org. And that number there is 800-267-5463. So it's 800-COPLINE.
Super. Oh, you do a great job. You do a better job than Ed. I hate to say it, Ed. I'm sorry, but she just does it. She looks better, you know. She sounds better.
He's getting fired, huh?
Yeah, we miss him though.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Hey, we got a great guest today, and I'm sure you agree. Bruce Vieira, Officer Bruce Vieira from the Pelham, New Hampshire Police Department. And Bruce, thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, again, thank you for having me.
So before the break, I was asking, I think the police have been taking a real beating, for the last several months, and like I said, you can't justify a few incidents that the news media might show. No one would ever justify that. No cops I know would justify any of the things that happened to George Floyd. But more importantly, I don't think people understand how hard police officers work and how much of their own time they give to this job. It's a lifetime commitment. It really is. It's a tough job. It's a lot different than it used to be, obviously. And I just want to hear your opinion on how you go out every day. I mean, are you looking at things differently, or how do you do it?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, no good cop likes a bad cop, right? And no good cop stands for any bad actions that a bad cop does. And the cop knows that. So you gotta push past all those negative things. And some days it's hard going to work with all these things in the media, and there's not too many good things that you see on the news about cops nowadays. It's usually in a negative light, but you need to realize that we do more good than bad. And it is a very difficult job, but it has more positives than negatives. And the fact that we get to help people every single day is the best part of the job. And a lot of people don't realize that when we deal with people, we're dealing with people sometimes at their worst. It's not at their best. So there's been a very bad rap on law enforcement, really, since I got on the job back in 2014, and it's progressed. And I hope that it can, make the turn here, and people can see the good that we do.
Right. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think back on the years of the DARE program, the PBA, just cops being involved. I had a couple of programs, off street art, kids that were doing tagging. We took them and tried to set them up with, opportunities to go to school to be artists. I mean, we try to turn negatives into positives, programs for women, for girls, young girls, had women professionals throughout the city come in from all walks of life and, talk to girls, inner city girls. And I had a homework study program, loaner phone. Steve O'Neill, Officer Steve O'Neill, and I started this loaner phone. And the host, they took it over. We had been on a domestic violence where the guy had pulled the phone out of the wall. Somehow we just talked about getting the phone company to give us phones to keep in the trunk. And the next thing you know, we're getting awards from the governor and they have the loaner phone program. But, we were always doing something in the community to help. And that's what policing really is, correct? I mean,
yeah.
Right. It's not going out there clubbing people and shooting people and torturing people. And no, like Bruce said, it's perfect. I love that. They should make a bumper sticker out of it. No good cop likes a bad cop. Never. You don't cover for them, nothing. You just don't do it. Go ahead,
yeah. So so we met with Ann on the podcast before, and in the first part of the show, I was like, Bruce, because I was so excited because I remembered her telling us a story about going into schools, and think about how much that does for the community. So if you could tell us a little bit about that, the what you guys have done for the schools and parents in the school for the children.
Yeah.
There.
So I went to the elementary school, which is now the PD now. And then I went to the memorial school here in town, in the high school in town. So I'm as Pelham as they get. I'm a Pelhamite. And I take pride in that. And for me to give back to the kids in the high school and the middle school and elementary school and speaking to them and stuff like that was tremendous, because when I was in high school and stuff like that, there wasn't a lot of it. So whenever I have the opportunity to give back to those kids, we do that. We speak to myself and the SRO, Officer Kelly, who's a school resource officer for the high school. We speak to the incoming freshman class in a health class, and we go over alcohol and drugs. So we go over all of that. And then also, obviously, with COVID and everything, we've been set back a little bit, but we've been in the auditorium at the high school. They brought in an organization that had set up a mock bedroom with a lot of hides, and where drugs would be hidden with, up-to-date trends with teenagers and stuff like that. And myself and Officer Kelly, we spoke to the parents. We've done, hazardous vaping, speaking and stuff like that to the kids. So we really tried to hit it hard in high school, because that's kind of the turning point. When I was in high school, it was 2009, and it was the pills. The pills were running rampant, and that was what was taking place. So it's kind of the starting point for a lot of kids in their life. For the ones that choose to use drugs, it starts in high school. So
sure does.
Look at it as if we can combat that at that age in high school, we'll start to win a little bit.
Mike, we're so lucky we missed that pill phase in 2009. I got clean in 2008, and you're right. That was a terrible time right there with the oxys. So
true.
I always think of how grateful I am for skipping that era right there.
It was a bad one.
It was bad. Yeah.
I sit in my office with clients, over the years, and I in my head, I'm saying, God, thank God I wasn't around for that. I got sober when it was just cocaine was the big thing. It was all the rage. I tried it for 2 years. That was it. I almost died. I mean, I wouldn't be here, because if you have an addictive personality, if your propensity is to be an alcoholic or a drug addict, if it's in your DNA or what, it's not something learned, it's inherited. It can be learned a little bit, but, as a cop, I always, even before I had recovery, I'll say this, I was sober most of my career, but for the first 6 years I wasn't, and I was a successful cop. I won awards and everything, but I wasn't in tune. I was making a lot of mistakes, but I know that I still had some empathy for people. But once I got sober in '86, and then the rest of my career, it made me a better person all around. But more importantly, when I listened to Officer Vieira here talking, and I'm thinking about the era that he's been through, at his young age, with all the addiction and stuff. And you must have seen so many things when you first came on, Bruce. Overdoses and just
I mean, there were multiple overdoses that I had to go to that they were my best friends in high school.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's crazy to it's come full circle, and to see where a lot of people are at now, it's sad. And I take it very personal because I've lost friends. I've lost best friends. I don't speak to friends anymore because of, drugs. And I take it very personal. And that's why I thoroughly and love the job that I do and the title that I have, that I help people and that I get to make a dent on drug dealers and stuff like that taking place in town.
Right, exactly. And there's such a stark difference between drug addicts and drug dealers. Anybody who's making money off of selling fentanyl poison to I have no sympathy for any of them. I just don't want to see the laws restricted or changed. Have empathy and not so much sympathy, but have empathy and understanding for the addicts. But some politicians want to change these laws and let these people out of jail or lessen the charges, and they need to be educated. They need to understand who the bad people are and who the sick people are.
Yep. I agree with you 100% on that. And we need to help the people that need help, and people that are doing the bad things, we need to combat and we need to target them. And that's the only way that you can really make a difference in this epidemic that we're going through in regard to the heroin, which is realistically fentanyl now. You have to help the people that need the help, and the people that are supplying this stuff, you need to target them, you need to bring them down. And there needs to be harsh punishments for
100%. There has to be. You can't let up, because if there's no repercussions, no punishment, what's stopping you from doing it again? I can remember in Lowell, they had a fantastic drug unit that take down drug houses. Probably took down over 100 drug houses.
Wow.
And this is when stuff was being sent out of the country, money, and I mean, these guys had it set up where they had their doors barricaded. You couldn't break it down with a battering ram, and but they did it. They figured out a way to do it with these intercity task forces, DEA. Lowell's had some great police officers too, and as Pelham as well. But I just think, that phase is almost over. But you can't. When I hear these politicians talking about letting some of these, charges be lessened, and it's not the right idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, you have to be very hard on the people that are selling these drugs, because you're right, because they lessen the charges, they drop the charges, they give them probation or parole, anything like that.
Do it again,
They're doing it again. And what people really don't know is that, these people are selling it at McDonald's.
Right.
Out of the apartments, they're selling it at Hannaford's parking lot.
Right.
They're doing it right in front of everyone, and they're putting the public in harm. And we take a very hard stance on that here at Pelham PD. And
I sure do.
Sell drugs in this town, we're gonna get you. It may not be a day that you do it, but we're out there. There's undercover officers out there. We utilize our local resources, the county force and stuff like that. So
sure do.
What comes around goes around. So,
I've always looked at different police departments. I worked for a very, large police department in sense of, city, town, but it's not crime can happen anywhere. You can live in Mayberry RFD, or you can live in New York City. The cops are going to face the same problems. They're going to face bad people, good people, same circumstances. It's just a smaller circle. But, Pelham, and I'm not just saying this because you or Ann are on the department, I've always been impressed with the Pelham PD, your chief, Joseph Rourke. You can just tell it's a well-run machine. My grandson lived across the street from you in his early years, but I used to go to his flag football games and be a couple cops there, or different functions, 4th of July. I don't know, I'm just very impressed. You're going to be proud working for a department like that. You grew up in Pelham, correct?
Yeah, yep. I moved here in 2001. Prior to that, in Chelmsford, Lowell area. So I've seen this town grow, and once again, I'm as Pelham as they get.
Right, you are.
Chief Rourke has done a great job of hiring some of the best men and women in the state here.
Absolutely.
And that we have a great force. We have great people that work for us, good people, wholehearted people that always do the right thing. And we're all about the community. We're all about the people of the town, and doing the right thing.
Right. For anybody watching or listening to Friends in Recovery, especially our brother and sister officers, corrections, fire, veterans, EMS, we all know what it's about. EMS come on a scene, there's a fire. I mean, Chief Howe had a bad fire at his house. I mean, we're all in this together, and we all work with blue collar workers. We're all, there in the community. Most of us give to the community. But I love what you said earlier. You said, no good cop likes a bad cop. No, you're not going to put up with it. Years ago, it was different. Back in the 60s and 70s, the Knapp Commission came into New York, changed that department. And, policing was different back then. We get educated cops, they make more money. You have an opportunity to be involved. Your position, just what you do now. You said you're a criminal investigator, and you're also a resource for people in the community that have a drug addiction. I mean, Skylar, you're shaking your head.
Awesome.
Right? I mean, isn't it amazing?
I'm just envisioning that gym with the mock bedroom, and your list is filled back and forth with tons of resources. You can just see all the lists. So, I mean, that's amazing. Like whoever, you guys came in and did that. Still, it's just the fact that you're doing it, whether the organization came in to help you with it. That's great that you guys orchestrated something like that for the community.
Really, because I mean, what good are we doing for the people who have a substance abuse disorder if we're not helping them?
Exactly.
Right.
And educating.
Educating. And
I love it.
Again, that's getting into the high school and getting into the school system here in town and educating the kids at a young age. Because I saw it firsthand. I saw it in high school. There really wasn't a lot of education in regards to drug use and abuse and what the side effects were. I mean, when Oxycontin came out, the pharmaceutical company said that it wasn't addictive.
Exactly.
Yep. All of us did trainings in that one, didn't we?
There was no education. Now it's about educating, treatment, prevention, in helping people.
Right.
Nice. I love it because it's such a non-judgment zone. Like your office seems so like that because that's how Ann is too. There's like a no judgment zone about you guys, and you guys are like the perfect personalities for that department because that's what you need, a no judgment zone.
Yeah, I tell people all the time. I mean, I've told people, like, if you're having a bad day and you're about to use, call me. We'll go get a coffee. We'll sit down. We'll chat. We'll figure out what's going on. And I had someone tell me, like, I've never had a cop tell me that before.
Exactly.
And it's, I can see it, but we live in a different world now. And
Correct.
It's about helping people and giving back and trying to make a difference. I'm not going to be able to save everyone, but if I can save one life, then I've done my job.
Absolutely. And it just knowing that that's available tells me that they want to make changes in policing, and this is a huge change. You're light years ahead of what anybody wants to change already. People should be paying attention to what really goes on in law enforcement. If they stopped and looked at it, and not just what the news media will show one bad scene over and over and over and over again, and almost brainwashing to think, and then all of a sudden the whole country has to change because of this. Every police department has to change. Give me a break. It's ridiculous. It's just
if you don't know a good cop, like you don't believe they're out there. Sometimes I've met people like that, and I'm always like, no, because there's one right in my town that drove me to school every day, and I'm always, he's like one of the nicest guys, and then I'm like, nope, Mike, and now I got Bruce, I got Ann. Like there's no way. Like I've met tons of great cops, so that's unless people know, like we only know what we're taught, and I think that sometimes if there's a stigma there, it's like all we know, but it's not. We got to shatter that because that's so not true.
Sure. Well, I think Pelham Police Department, Pelham, New Hampshire Police Department certainly could be the role model for that.
Yeah,
they're way ahead of the times right now. I really believe.
Yeah.
Any final questions, Sky, for Bruce?
No, that's it. This was great. I'm so glad I got to meet you because literally I've heard about you and the work you do and the impact you make in the community. Like that's awesome. So it's all about giving.
It's all about giving back.
Yes.
And I think the next time, if you'd be kind enough to come on again, maybe with the captain, we'd love to have you and Ann on.
Yes.
And we could, that'd be
100%.
great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'll tell my old man you said hi.
Oh yeah, I tell you that I grew up with Bruce's dad, Bruce Vieira, and we grew up in the '60s. Your dad was cool as the other side of the pillow. The girls loved him. No, I'm serious. Bruce was a smooth work. Always had a nice car. Worked hard. Just a nice kid. Never in trouble. Never bothering anybody. Just a great guy. And then I look at you and I can see where you he's done a great job. And this kid is so humble, Skylar.
I can tell.
If you Googled him and you saw all his athletic achievements in the town of Pelham. It's just through the roof. I didn't want to embarrass him, but you broke a few records, huh, Bruce? Did you break a few records at Pelham High School?
Yeah, maybe once or twice, but we won a couple state championships, so that's
Yeah, you sure did.
And, I'm a product of what my parents raised me to be. So all the credit to my mother
And your mother too. And I'm sorry, I'm raving about your dad, but your mom definitely probably has just as much, if not more, input. But
Yeah.
you're a wonderful young man. They did a great job with you.
No, they did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on today. This is great.
Oh, thank you. And I can't wait to come on again. I
Yeah,
think
you will.
this is good.
Thanks. And believe me, any police officer or anybody in EMS that's going to watch or listen to this will really, they'll get a lot out of this. This was a great podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for what you do. And obviously thank you for your service and the time that you've done, and what you do now is incredible. So
Thanks so much, Bruce. Thank you very much. Officer Bruce Vieira, Pelham PD, Pelham, New Hampshire. Super.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
Skylar, I think been a great show, with or without Ed.
With or without you, right? We're singing you too.
We miss him. He'll be back next week, so I'm sure he's doing something very important today anyway.
Yeah. Making marks in the world,
Absolutely. So, hey, answering the call, the First Responders Podcast, sponsored by FirstNet, built by AT&T, and stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe and sober.
And sober.
All right.
That concludes this episode of Answering the Call, the First Responders Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House, FirstNet, built with AT&T, for supporting those on the path to recovery and keeping this valuable resource free for all our friends in recovery. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery. If you can't get enough of Mike, the Podfather, Jersey Ed, and Skylar, you can catch them on Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and GenesisHouse.net.